Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Future Picks podcast, where we explore the ideas, technologies, and people shaping the future of airline and travel retail. I'm your host, Clarissa Jenkins, and today we're joined by JP Olmos, expert of modern airline retailing here at Branchspace, and one of the most thoughtful voices in airline digital transformation. From LATAM Airlines in Santiago to Sabre in Dallas, JP has spent over 14 years immersed in airline tech and now helps lead some of the most complex offer and order consulting projects at Branchspace. So what's top of mind during today's conversation? Alignment. Not just technical alignment, but the kind of industry-wide coordination it takes to make modern airline retailing effective and customer-focused. JP shares what excites and surprises him about how airlines approach offer and order, AI, NDC, and more. We talk about what smaller airlines can do to start moving forward, what larger ones might overlook, and where AI agents might start to shape everything, from servicing to personalization. And lastly, JP reminds us that transformation isn't just about systems. It's about asking the right questions at the right time for your business. So let's get into it. I'd like to welcome JP Olmos to the Future Picks podcast. Thank you so much, JP, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling? Excited to be here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, if it's okay with you, we're just going to jump straight into it and start with my first question.
Perfect.
All right. So JP, you've been in the airline industry for over 14 years, and you've worked for several types of companies in different locations, including airlines, technology providers, and now on the consultancy side for Branchspace. Can you tell us some of the highlights from your career and what eventually led you to Branchspace?
Absolutely. I started my career at LATAM Airlines in 2010 in Santiago, Chile. At that time, they were called LAN. I took several positions there, supporting revenue management, loyalty, call center, alliances, and distribution until 2015. I moved to Dallas to work for Sabre's airline IT product team. In 2017, I started working on Sabre's take on offers and orders to support both the airline IT and the GDS businesses of the company. Now, on the airline IT side, that whole scope grew significantly into what is now called the Sabre Mosaic platform for airlines, for modern airline retailing. As I was working on that, I heard about Branchspace, and this was in 2024, so last year. And I was pretty intrigued by its unique take on helping airlines move along with their offer, order, settle, deliver transformation. So it could basically, Branchspace could do everything from helping define initial strategy, documenting detailed requirements, designing solutions, and even co-championing execution. And by that, I mean helping with implementation and even testing. I had never seen such a comprehensive, expanded take on consulting, let alone applied to a topic I'd been working on and I was passionate about. So I was very, very happy to join Branchspace last October.
That's great to hear. Well, we're excited to have you as part of the Branchspace consulting team. And with that, you are also the first Branchspace team member, fully based in the Americas. You have roots in Chile and a presence across both North and South America. How do you see our global culture and approach to digital transformation resonating in these regions?
Well, this region, as in other regions, I see some airlines moving at different paces, right? So you got some of them jumping right into a complete modern airline retailing transformation, and others just looking to see what's going on with that first group, looking for quick wins as they wait and see what happens. But really, everyone we've spoken to so far in the region is attempting to perform some sort of digital transformation. Several North and South American airlines are now considering Branchspace as a potential partner in that transformation, with either our consulting services or our digital product, and sometimes both. So we couldn't be more excited to help them achieve their goals in this area.
I completely agree. Yeah, we're all very excited to see this expansion of Branchspace and really champion, like you said, those digital transformation and modern airline retailing throughout the world. And with that, we know that Branchspace supports airlines on their journey to modern retailing through strategic consulting and innovative technology. Given your experience in offer and order management, what's a trend or development in this space that continues to energize or maybe even surprise you?
Well, I'd say the fact that there's sustained generalized industry alignment around something as big as modern airline retailing, I would say that energizes me a lot. It's the right thing to do. And although different airlines will always have slightly different takes on an optimal approach and solution for them, it's already a huge win to have the alignment that we already have. It allows industry constituents to speak the same language and work together more closely than ever before as they move towards this transformation together.
And a quick follow up on that, you talked about the alignment and some of the language in the industry. Have you noticed any instances where that alignment isn't quite there yet, or maybe the glossary isn't quite there yet for certain airline or representatives?
Oh, well, every now and then there's a hiccup for sure. Nothing's perfect, right? But I think we're at a maturity position as an industry where we can actually reel each other back in if we deviate from what has been kind of collectively agreed upon as the path forward and the vocabulary moving forward as well. That sometimes it's easy to kind of like fall back on kind of legacy terminology to describe certain business processes, certain transactions, or what have you. And then it's up to each other to kind of keep each other in check and kind of really speaking the same language as we move on this transformation.
Yeah, that makes total sense. There's a lot of acronyms and jargon in our industry, so sometimes it can get mixed up or you forget what an acronym means. So we definitely want to make sure we're holding each other accountable and educating and helping each other progress towards this transformation.
For sure.
And I want to switch gears a little bit to a different topic now. Particularly, harnessing AI is a major topic in the aviation industry. You recently attended a few conferences and events where it was widely discussed. So I want to know more how you envision AI impacting modern airline retailing and specifically servicing strategies.
Sure. So I would say right now, AI agents are starting to get a lot of attention. They're here to basically execute tedious, typically labor intensive, repetitive tasks on their own and make processes and work days a lot easier for humans. AI agents are goal oriented, autonomous, and they have access to tools so they can really execute some of these tasks and, so to speak, take them off our plate as humans. So I've seen only a couple so far, most of them focused on sales funnels. So think about deals or shopping experience, that kind of thing. But there are many potential applications everywhere, including travel. For example, it's easy for me to imagine servicing AI agents not just facilitating shopping, but also making and fixing reaccommodations in the future. That will be a pretty cool application.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree with that. And with that point, AI is just one of the terms being used right now. We also see AGI and ASI. Can you discuss or tell us the main differences between these three and the potential roles they'll play in airline retailing tech?
Sure, I would say not all of that is completely clear at this point, but I'll do my best. So basically, AGI and ASI are, you could think about it as two different levels, so to speak, two levels of AI, or two levels of artificial intelligence. So AGI would be still a level higher above what we have today in terms of AI agents. And it's really about being kind of like a general purpose AI rather than what exists today, which is kind of narrow purpose applications. You either want, let's say, a chat bot or Q&A kind of situation, or somebody to help you out with your deals if you're a salesperson, or somebody to help you out with your shopping experiences. They're kind of still very narrow focused. But with AGI, the purpose becomes a lot more general. And that's where we can think about this a human level intelligence, where you have not just one purpose, not just one domain, and in having multiple purposes, this intelligence is able to transfer some learnings from one domain or topic to another. And from there, just have the ability to think more abstractly, to actually reason and understand concepts beyond concrete data. So again, all those traits that we typically associate with human level intelligence is kind of encapsulated in this concept of AGI. And then a SI is kind of a level above that, or superhuman intelligence, or just super intelligence. It's largely hypothetical right now. It's not something that anyone is kind of claiming to have achieved. So it's not exactly clear what we'll use it for in general, let alone specifically in travel. But of course, just the mere concept and hypothesis of it is extremely captivating, because you already have tons of value being added by these AI agents. And then you can think of AGI as a step above that, and having human level companions, so to speak, actually really dig into what we do in our workday, what we do when we travel, etc., as we run our companies, our airlines, and all that. And then with ASI, I mean, I would say the jury is out still on that one. It's we gotta really think through what we want it to do, what kind of guardrails we want to put in place as well, which is equally important. So I'll have to kind of like postpone my answer on that one for at least a year.
No worries. I appreciate the answer that you did provide. Yeah, we could have an entire episode just on this topic and the ways that AI is affecting not only our industry, but other industries. I really liked what you said about the guardrail aspect, because that is something that we are starting to have to confront within all types of industries. And AGI will only make that more important. And the differences between the three levels, yeah, you're right. It will be interesting to see how those come to play. I personally had never heard of ASI before, quite recently. I was only aware of to the AGI extent. So to imagine that it'll go even further when we haven't quite, you know, completed AGI yet. There's definitely a lot of companies out there working on it and making amazing strides in it. And moving on, switching gears once again, we have also worked closely with airlines navigating their NDC transitions. And based off of your experience, how has the conversation around NDC evolved, especially related to OTAs and modern airline retailing?
Yeah, I would say at this point, the industry kind of expects most airlines, if not all airlines, to expose their content via APIs that they control. And that was kind of like the spirit of NDC, like put the control back in the airline's hands in terms of how they want their content exposed to the indirect channel, to third-party agencies like OTAs or online travel agencies, as well as other constituents out there in the marketplace. Now, OTAs and other sellers will do what makes the most sense to them in order to consume the airline content that they need to then provide that to their customers. So sometimes that'll mean consuming NDC APIs of the airline. Sometimes that means getting the content through GDSs or other aggregators out there. So really, it depends on what makes sense to the individual OTA. Now, back to the airlines, I would say many of them are now past their initial NDC implementation. They've actually scaled it up, and they're feeling pretty good about the penetration that they have in the indirect channel. So now they're looking to expand their offer and order management system to the rest of the channels and their surroundings. What I mean by surroundings is, their accounting system, their delivery ecosystem, their settlement processes, and all that. And the encapsulation of all of these things is what we call now modern airline retailing. So I would say essentially to answer your question is it's really an evolution in terms of size and scope and purview, where at first you had kind of like a dedicated business case focused on the indirect channel and about control and the ability to do certain things on your own as an airline. But now, having kind of proven that milestone or stepping stone or proof point, now going even further and just extending the offer and order capabilities to pretty much every corner of their organization. That's how I see the evolution taking place.
Okay, awesome. So it sounds like in order to achieve true modern airline retailing, NDC is one of the steps towards that level of capability. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, for many airlines, especially the first ones that kind of took the first steps in this years ago, NDC was the natural first step into something like this. NDC was already kind of introducing concepts like offers and orders and some level of abstraction from the legacy concepts and data relationships that have existed for decades before, and kind of like trying to break loose from certain limitations associated to the legacy environment was kind of what NDC was about for them. And now that they've done it, then you know what else can they do? And turns out there's plenty more.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Yeah, you're right. Those limitations really come to mind, particularly when you said that it helps with the surrounding systems for an airline. So, one of the limitations in the past with, or even currently with legacy systems, is the fragmentation that occurs when you bring the entire airline's ecosystem together. And it sounds like NDC helps eliminate that fragmentation by connecting to surrounding systems.
Right. I think the goal, the dream for many airlines is just having this kind of centralized order management system that can really touch every corner of their business and even their operations, right? And that way they can have, more information about what's going on and therefore more control, the ability to make the right decisions and, bring in additional product lines if that's what their appetite is, and ultimately just continue to grow their business.
Oh, that's so exciting. And then I am curious, out of all of these topics that we've been discussing so far, what would you say is one big idea or even industry barrier from recent conversations or conferences that really stood out to you? And did it challenge your views at all?
Right. So when I would say this one thing related to AI actually really shook me. It shouldn't have surprised me that much. I should have been kind of like aware of it, but it's very easy to forget. So I want to highlight it. So this was actually said by Dr. Michael Wu, a PhD chief scientist at PROS. So he said that if AI isn't safe for our kids today, then it's not safe for our future. I think it's so important to consider this because it's too tempting to just keep pushing AI capabilities forward without thinking of long-term consequences. It's also tempting and lazy to just say, oh, we just don't know. We don't know right now. We'll figure it out later. I just don't like that. So I commend Dr. Wu for not settling for that thought and instead proposing a proxy that can be observed today, forcing us to collectively raise the bar in terms of safety. Airlines and other companies should keep this thought in their minds as a guideline as they evaluate incorporating AI into their business and operations. Because again, just like I was completely absorbed in the art of the possible, so to speak, with AI and all these levels of super intelligence and the likes, it's super easy to just disregard the guardrails or the safety around it. I think it's just as important to have some sort of a sustainable modernization. We don't want a transformation that ends up damaging us in any way, collectively as an industry or as a human species even. So it's definitely something to look out for. And I love that there's this proxy about the kids of today, right? That we can actually observe in terms of evaluating the safety of the technology.
Yeah, that's really, really insightful and definitely a really good way to explain things because it's something that, for the most part, everyone can relate to or visualize, even if they don't have children of their own, but they, are around children, in it, day to day, or have friends with children, things like that. We can witness those evolutions firsthand. And we have even in the world seen some of that already taking place. Without getting too much into politics, we want to make sure that our governance stays up to speed with that intelligence explosion.
Yeah, companies and governance entities, industry bodies, airlines, vendors, everyone really.
And then it's not necessarily a barrier, but to that tone, are there any initial ways that airlines can be proactive in setting these governance around AI and being thoughtful in the way that they use AI for either internal operations or retailing purposes?
Well, that's a great question. I would say it starts with being inquisitive about how the technology operates, what each vendor's take is on it, and what kind of guardrails they've implemented already, and to just determine as an airline if that is to their satisfaction or not. Right? So again, it starts with that. You can't just stay with your I don't know what I don't know. Um, I would welcome everyone, encourage everyone to just ask questions. This is relatively new compared to many other things that have touched our industry in the recent past. So it's completely fine to not have the answers right now. What's not fine is not to ask the questions. So it starts from that.
That is really, really well said. I love that answer. Yeah, you're so right. A lot of people, me included at times, don't know completely the in and outs of AI and where it's going. So it's easy, like you said, to do the whole I don't know what I don't know, and rather to be inquisitive. And it says, like, have a critical eye almost, even if you're not totally knowledgeable, but you still have an opinion and you are able to learn, rather quickly.
Exactly. Spot on.
So the transition strategy for OOM can vary depending on the airline's business model or size. What's an initial step you recommend for a small airline versus a large airline to start this transition and set themselves up for success?
Wow, big question.
I
So
know.
I would say establishing a strategy, at least at the highest level, is the first step, in my view, for any size, any business model airline. So at least there's something in common. So just like what we were talking about AI, I was saying, like, it's not okay to just don't know and just stay there and need to ask questions. It's also not okay to just sit on the sidelines and not do anything, right? So basically, that at the very least, airlines should be defining what they want, where they want to see themselves in a few years' time, and how, if at all, offer order management or you know digital modernization, et cetera, plays a role into achieving that. And I would say for the most part, it plays a big role. Now, when it comes to defining what they want to do, that includes deciding whether to take a pioneer role in the industry or rather wait and see what others do first. So that's an easy way to kind of like break airlines into two groups. Now, so far, having an early active role in that transformation seems rather correlated with either being of a significant size or at least having a lot of control already of their own technical stack, or both traits. Now, this doesn't mean smaller airlines can't modernize. Part of it is just practical, right? Several components of the modern airline retailing business reference architecture simply haven't been scoped out by vendors yet, let alone delivered. So Pioneer Airlines are actually working side by side with these vendors to make sure that the components are designed in a way that works for them. And then the vendors are keeping in mind that, more and more airlines are going to adopt these tools, these components, these products, so to speak, in the future. So they're kind of working hard on that. It is perfectly reasonable for airlines that are a bit tighter on resources to kind of opt out of this process because it's a very lengthy process. It's a multi-year effort. right? So it makes sense. It might make sense for somebody who's kind of strapped for resources to just wait for the finished product or products that support, full blown offer and order management. And nobody will fault them for that, right? So yeah, there's definitely, just to summarize, there's a size component and there's a pre-existing control component, right? So airlines that have a lot of their own systems built by themselves, controlled by themselves, maintained by themselves, have a lot of liberty, a lot of freedom in terms of where to move next. Also, airlines of a certain size have the means and resources to dedicate some people to work with the vendors out there and just build the future stack, right? So yeah, there you go. There you have the two variables that I see.
That's great. Yeah. And we even do this at Branchspace, working with airlines that you mentioned to build um, those architecture frameworks to support the OOM transition. And it's definitely been very, very successful so far. But you're right, that is, maybe not the best fit for all airline types, sizes, and models. This is a personal follow-up question. The idea of an out-of-box product, does that, in your opinion, currently exist for OOM?
I would say it does. It doesn't. It certainly doesn't encapsulate all of the scope. Like if you were to kind of like take the full blown documentation from like IATA and the Airline Retailing Consortium, it's a massive, massive map, right, of different systems and applications working together to support kind of like this modern vision of an airline. But there are certainly some solutions out of the box that help establish kind of like an offer and order management baseline for an airline, whether be it an NDC, be it on a mobile app or IBE, right? There's vendors that definitely have something to offer in that regard to kind of kickstart airlines in this process, in this transformation, and also just help them understand or imagine a little bit more clearly what the future could hold if they were to extend these offer and order management capabilities to the rest of their channels and the rest of their business, right? So yeah, definitely vendors in the NDC space and e-commerce space, right? I believe actually we are one of these vendors in the e-commerce space that can actually help airlines kickstart their digital transformation using our e-commerce platform.
You're so right. Trip Lake, specifically the Shop and Fly module, which is our IBE module that goes beyond just an IBE, is tech agnostic. So it does integrate with any OOM or PSS system. And that is exactly one of the goals behind Trip Lake, is to foster that transition to OOM, and expand it to all of the digital channels and offering spaces. But I really like what you said about the complete out of box solution or product is making its way there as we navigate this new phase of the industry.
Yeah, yeah, well said.
And you did mention NDC there in your last response. So I'd love for you to tell us more about the connection between OOM and NDC. In particular, are there strategic advantages for airlines to adopt these technologies in parallel versus one at a time?
Right. So, well, at the highest level, it kind of goes back to my previous point about knowing what you want to do as an airline. That's always going to be fundamental. But digging a little bit deeper into this, I think of NDC as kind of offer and order management for distribution or for the indirect channel. In other words, one of many applications of offer and order management, or maybe the first channel to ever go through an OOM transformation in the industry. Now, a complete offer and order management transformation for an airline is several times bigger than an NDC implementation. And the latter is a lot more mature than other aspects of OOM, like one order, settlement with orders, and interlining with offers and orders. Even today, I see NDC as a first step into offer and order management. It has a business case of its own which is clear and has been documented across the industry. What has changed is that nowadays, complete offer and order management support can now be a real factor to consider if a vendor is going to provide an NDC solution to an airline, as it could make sense for an airline to want a single comprehensive order management system rather than a collection of them, right? So you see different things going on with airlines, right? So you see airlines that have implemented NDC, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, and now are looking into modern airline retailing. Some of them actually did kind of NDC on their own and are now considering like, okay, that was already pretty significant. So what would it take for me, airline, to kind of take that to the next level? And some of them are reconsidering kind of their initial choices, right? So you've got airlines that did their own thing for NDC are now considering kind of like partnering with a vendor that can help them really get to the full scope, and vice versa, I suppose. And airlines that have chosen, let's say, vendor A for NDC are now looking at vendors B and C for the full modern airline retailing scope, simply because those other vendors have a greater purview, right? And potentially you have a few airlines that used a certain vendor for NDC and are now kind of happy that they chose them because that same vendor has showed them kind of a path to full-blown offer order management transformation across all channels and across all areas of their business and operations. So those are kind of things to consider, right? Again, still think of NDC as a very decent first step. But like we were saying earlier, e-commerce, specifically mobile app and .com, are also a very cool place to start with offer and order management and digital transformation overall. So now NDC is not the only starting point, but it's still a contender in that space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it's a good purview to have, especially, at Branchspace, we have been involved in conversations where it's not just about, okay, what are you looking to do or what kind of transformations do you want to make within the next 2 to 3 years that we can help with, but let's look 7, 10, 15 years down the line, because we want to make sure that you are not just set up for success, year 1 and year 2, but year 20 as well. And we always want to make sure that we're delivering either the best consulting services or AAA products that will help support that long-term future proof vitality and success.
100%.
One final serious question for you. I want to know, how do the broader industry trends that we've discussed today and that you've seen align with the digital transformation work you're leading in the Americas? Is there a specific initiative that reflects this direction in a real and practical way?
All right. So yeah, first of all, I would say most of, if not all, the consulting services that we provide are related to and aligned with the broader industry trends, because the broader industry trends are largely about digital transformation, which is what we do, what we enable. Now, in the Americas, as in other regions, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I see airlines jumping in right now and airlines waiting and seeing. Obviously, the ones jumping in have constant initiatives at play in modern airline retailing, but even the more cautious ones are looking to advance right away in some sort of digital transformation initiative, right? So either revamping their website, their mobile app, or establishing some more control over their content and distribution channels, looking for more control and flexibility over their stack, and just looking for better experiences for their customers. So I would say, especially that last one, looking for better experiences for their customers, is something that really, really reflects our direction, in a very appealing way, right? So airlines wanting to provide a very, very clean, very seamless digital experience for their customers can really rely on us to either design that for them to implement on their own, or with vendors, or just actually lean on us to provide that directly through our AAA product.
Very well said. Exactly. And to that point, for anyone listening today or watching and wondering what is a potential first step to start collaborating and seeing what Branchspace can do for your airline, please visit our website, or you can book a demo with us on our website. And a great entry point is, outside of those demos, is for the consulting team, digital review or a workshop. That's a good way to dip your toes into it and get some quick wins, and then progress from there as resources and strategy start to come together.
Yeah.
And I'll just ask you one last question, JP, before we wrap up. Thank you so much for taking the time today. But this is a personal question. What are 2 destinations currently on your bucket list?
Oh, well, personally, I'd love to visit Greece for its historical landmarks and beautiful seaside locations. But I also need to visit Italy again. I actually visited Italy over 20 years ago with my parents and brother, but I feel the need to do it again, this time with my wife and kids. I have some extended family there. We all adore the food and the landscapes, and I just know we're going to have an amazing time.
Well, that's fabulous to hear. There are no wrong answers to that question, but I will say I particularly like yours. You might want to make it to Venice in particular before it maybe disappears or sinks. And I can't wait to see the pictures of your family trip.
No pressure. Thank you. Yeah. Try to make it happen as
Yeah.
possible.
But again, JP, thank you so much for taking the time today. If there's any last minute comments or questions that you have for me that you'd like to ask, please feel free to say them now.
I'll just wrap up by kind of reiterating one of your points, which is just to encourage any airlines out there listening to just have a conversation with us. We're ready to talk about what your ambitions are, what your strategy is, what your challenges are to achieve it, or what your challenges are to establish a strategy in the first place. So we can help in any point. So remember, like I said earlier in the podcast, we can help with very early stages like strategy definition or procurement or things like that. Or we can hang out a lot longer if you need us to, or maybe come in later in the process to help with solution design and execution. And then also, if you need some kind of like more out of the box product that's ready to go to push forward your digital transformation, I encourage you to also reach out for a demo of our Triplet product.
Great plug there, JP. Thank you so much. And if they were to become a Branchspace client, they would have the opportunity to come on the Future Picks podcast. So we're always looking for more co-hosts to join us in our next episodes.
That sounds great.
Yeah, exactly. So with that, we'll wrap it up here. Again, thank you so much, JP. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and week. And we're so excited to see all the amazing transformational projects that you have in store for Branchspace and the airline industry.
Same here. Thanks for having me. Have a nice day.